All right, so here we are with co-founder of Power Baseball, Jesse Marlo, to talk a little bit more today about he's been in this for 20 years, so it's super entertaining when people try to come and tell him maybe things he hasn't seen before or want to make sure he knows, just because just to look out for it a little bit extra because after 20 years and draft picks and countless college recruiting processes he's been through, he's seen almost seen it all, or as much as any of us out here. So, in your 20 years, what is the biggest thing you could tell our players going into this summer to help them on the field and to also help their recruiting at the same time?
Yeah, I'd say there's two parts to that. One is learn how to prepare yourself on your own. Learn your body, learn how to get ready for your games that you need to play. And then two would be worry about the correct things. Don't worry about outside circumstances and things that might not be at the top of the list as far as importance when you're going out to play a game. When we talk about the preparation part, when you're in high school season, right now, you show up to the field, coach has a list on the board. All right, we're doing this for 5 minutes, we're doing this for 20 minutes, and you basically have a routine laid out for you. You're there for 5 to 6 days a week. So your kind of routine is in place for you. You're getting your work in, and there's not a lot of work on your own to do that. That's basically the coach's job. Now, as we start to transition into summer ball, there's going to be about 3 to 4 weeks where you're not going to be with your high school. You're going to be on your own. Then we're going to go show up and play some games. Then everybody's going to kind of disperse and go home, go to where they live, and we won't see each other for a couple days. A lot of the times, the kids kind of take for granted what's gone on in the last 4 months of high school season, and they don't quite realize, like, oh man, I haven't thrown a ball in 4 days, and I got a tournament next week, because they go home, they want to go to the beach, everybody's off of school, and they've got a lot of things to do. So I would say the first thing is as soon as your high school season ends, kind of step back, look at what you did during the season, what worked for you, maybe some things that didn't work for you, some things you may have learned from either your pitching coach or hitting coach that you'd like to incorporate more into your workouts. And I would say sit down and write out a plan and a schedule for yourself and put yourselves on some type of rotation of workouts, throwing, and those types of things. And if you can't figure that on your own, especially within our organization, you have plenty of people you can reach out to that can help you, help provide that guidance to that schedule. But I think preparation is a huge key to it, just like it is in anything in this world, whether it's a job, an interview, any of that stuff. You want to be prepared going into it. So it's kind of hard to understand why guys show up to games unprepared. And a lot of it, they just might not really be thinking of it at the moment. So I think they need to be educated a little bit more on preparing themselves, learning their body. That way they could be at their best shape when they need it, when it's time to perform.
Now, correct me if I'm wrong, but with our experience, I feel like we really find one of two guys, and that's one of the guys. The guy that doesn't come to the game prepared because he didn't do his work during the week. But then we also have the guy that's not prepared, that does all his work leading up to the week, but then he gets to the game, and you said earlier they're concerned with the wrong things, right? So you got the guy that prepared himself, but now why is he still having that performance gap? And it's because in summer ball, go into what you mean by what's being concerned about the right things and what's the wrong things.
So I'll go back to the old cliche: control what you could control. If you stick to that and just worry about playing the game, competing, doing the task at hand, what your job is, everything else kind of falls into place. When we talk about worrying about the wrong things, it's okay, I got Florida State coming to see me, or I got Miami coming to see me. I need to make sure I throw 92 miles an hour. And it's the totally wrong thought process, because if you normally throw 90 miles an hour, just because you try to throw a little bit harder, the chances of it going up to 92 are probably pretty slim, and your game's probably going to get worse because you're not really being you. You're trying to be something you're not.
Well, it's like
So
it's a distraction, right? Because like now you're worried about trying to drive the car faster instead of trying to get to your destination, which should be winning and getting the hitter out if it's a pitcher in this scenario. Is that what you're getting at?
correct. And I always kind of revert back to pitching because I'm a pitching guy, but it's the same thing with hitting. Like, a lot of guys, they'll see colleges in the stands and they're going to be like, all right, I need to leave the yard here. No, you don't need to leave the yard. That college is probably already there to watch you because they already know you can hit a lot of home runs in batting practice. They already know you have the power. Now they want to see if you have bat to ball skills. Do you have barrel control? Do you have the things that really matter when you're facing a pitcher that's throwing 90 miles an hour with an 84 mile an hour slide pitch, like slide piece? Like that's what these guys are here to see. Like who are the baseball players? Who are the grinders? Who are the guys coming to the field with a game plan? There's lots of guys out there that are talented. They're all across the board, and you see it all the time. Like guys that are out of school for 6 months, they're out of school for a year, and then they kind of drop down. Well, it's not because they don't have the talent. Like they were there for a reason. They had the talent. It's just they might not be able to like use that talent and put it all together and actually be a baseball player. Talent's great, but does you no good if you don't know how to use it, if it can't help you win games. Like you can look super pretty, you could have a beautiful stroke in BP, but if you can't hit the ball in a game, it's not helping anybody win games. And at the end of the day, as a college coach, that's your job is to win baseball games.
And there's the timeless terms and that can relate to any industry of like a dog and pony show, and that's what that is, right? In our this amateur baseball world, we call them showcase players, right? Mm-hmm. And or I like to call them all show no pro, all show and no production, right? When it comes to game time, 5 o'clock hitters. There's another term. Everything you're talking about is for everyone that was at our organizational meeting, we talked about how the recruiting process, we explain it as a job interview, right? And that's something that has been a thing that's been going on for years. We've talked about it even back when I went through my recruiting. It was like, hey, you're on a job interview every time you touch the field if you're trying to get recruited. Like, not only do you show up to the field the right way, but how you play. So then taking that same narrative, we talked about how there's a job resume in an application process, and then there's a job interview. And the resume is the stuff on paper, right? So it's like, oh, did I have my GED? Do I have my master's? Do I have my bachelor's? Do I have my doctorate? So that's how hard I throw. That's how fast I run. That's my height. That's my weight. Those are those things. But then the job interview is when they actually show up to watch you play in the game. So when we think about a job process, when I get on my job interview, I'm not going to sit here and just keep regurgitating things on my resume. My resume already got me the interview, right? Yeah. So that's why you're saying. So like, hey, like, and then when you're in our program, like we've got recruiting videos with radar guns on the screen for pitchers, right? Like the hitters, they're showing up to the game because they've already trusted us, which in the same job interview process, like if I'm hiring somebody and I've got 100 resumes that get on my desk and I'm going to pick out 5, and I have 5 people that I trust, that says, hey, I recommended these people. If I'm going to only read 5 resumes, I'm going to find the 5 that the people that I trust that recommended me. So that's us. Right?
I was going to say, not only did your resume pass, but you've also got recommendations behind you to kind of paint that picture for the coach before he's ever even seen you play.
We're the letters of rec, right? Making the phone calls, making that, having these relationships. They obviously have the resume. So when they show up to the game, which all the players have to worry about is showing up to the game. Our job at the right time, right? It depends. 15U, you're not going to have college coaches all over the place. You don't even drive a car yet. Relax. There's going to be some, right? 16U, 17U, it kind of gradually gets more and more the older you get because you're getting closer to be a college player. But like what the players just have to worry about showing up to the field and being prepared, like you're talking about, for whatever event they're coming. Do they do the work leading up to the event? And then being concerned about the right things, because that is the job interview. And it's not about how hard I hit it or how hard I throw. It's about competing and all of those things is what you're saying, right? So like, here's our job resume, job interview. So the game is the interview. So stop worrying about the things on paper. Stop worrying about the things outside of the room, right? So outside of the fence players. Worry about competing and beating the other guy, right? So what are some other things other than just winning, right? Because winning is, that's obvious, right? That's a result. There's performance without results. The two don't always go hand in hand. You can have a good performance and the results not show. What are some of the things that college coaches, pro scouts are looking for that don't show up on the box scores, that don't show up in the wins and losses, right? Is it something between pitches? Like, what is it? What is the 20 years told you?
Yeah, I would say one obviously is playing the game hard. Everybody's heard that. No matter what the situation is, whether you're 0 for 3, 3 for 3, losing by 10, they want to see you competing all the way to the last out of the game. I would say another big thing that a lot of people don't think about is engagement in the game.
That's
Is the player
there's something
engaged in
different
the
for
game?
them then, right? That's something
Yeah.
different. Engagement. Go into
Yeah.
engagement.
So kids probably hear coaches talk a lot at the end of games after a loss, usually a team you should have beat, where the coach is like, "Guys, we're not engaged in the dugout." Like that's one that's probably pretty common, is engaged in the dugout, and I'm gonna go a little bit more
You
into
mean it's not just
engagement
like
somewhere.
rah rah yay for my buddy, right? It's not
Correct,
that.
correct. It's actually being focused. Like you could still be engaged and be talking about something else in the baseball game to your buddy, but you're actually watching it and seeing what's going on. And the way I kind of relate it to a lot of my players is like, guys, by the second inning, whether you've hit or not, you should have already seen about 25 pitches and kind of have an idea of what to see. Rather than sometimes you look in the dugout, especially at the younger ages, and you'll see a kid with his back completely to the field. Like I don't understand. Like one, that's a lack of, it's a disrespect for your teammates, and two, you're not learning anything. Like there's so much you can learn just by watching the
And
game.
when you
And
say
like,
learn to win that game, not learn for your baseball knowledge or your growth as a player. How about I can learn something in the
right
first
there in
inning
the moment.
to beat them in the fourth inning?
Correct, right there in the moment. What is win?
What's
then?
one of those
What's
things?
important now? That's the
Let's
definition
go,
of win,
let's
right?
go into one of those things. What's one of those things that someone can find watching in the first inning that can help them win?
Like you could look at the pitcher. What type of movements he got on his ball? Is he throwing curveballs for a strike? With guys on base, is he changing his looks? Does he change his set times to the plate?
I
Things
love
like
that.
that.
I'm going to say that because that was actually the first three things I was going to say. So for me, I was a runner, right? Like I could really run. All right. So I had to get on base whatever way I could. Right. So as soon and the pitcher was warming up pre-game in the bullpen. Not only were we timing him up, but I was looking at every time. I wanted to look at when he got out of the stretch, or how did he come set, and what was his leg lift look like? What was he a breather? Right? Like
Does he have multiple leg
does
lifts?
he have
Is
multiple
he a slide
leg
all the
lifts?
time? Does he go high
Exactly, right?
sometimes?
And there was times to where literally a guy would get out there and I would go, man, every single time he took a warm-up pitch, he took a big breath, and when his shoulders dropped, it was a 1 count and he was to the plate. And then all of a sudden our leadoff guy would get on base, and the first time he comes set, he would breathe, and first pitch we take off, and boom, we stole second base by a mile, right? And it didn't happen every time, but how were we able to do that on the very, very first pitch? It's because we learned things before the game, because we were watching intently, looking for things to help us win the game.
Yep. I mean, a simple thing like watching the catchers throw down in between innings. Like, how many guys are actually watching that? Very few. They're usually having a conversation until the first pitch is thrown.
And then the ones that are watching it, they're still not watching the right things. Man, he's got a cannon. I don't care if he's got a cannon. Did you see that he threw the ball was nowhere near the bag, and we're in the fourth inning, and now all three innings he hasn't thrown a ball accurately between innings to second base. I don't care if he has a cannon, because a cannon to the wrong side of the base is a 2-5, is all it
Yep.
is. So that's the thing is I hear these statements of he's got a cannon, or oh, he's not that good. Like, guys, that doesn't help you. Quit knocking him down, like, so you can feel more confident, which is fake confidence.
Right.
What's real information to help you win the game is
Yep.
what it is.
Well, let me ask you this: is the pitcher the only person you could steal a base on?
Yeah. Multiple people.
Is the catcher being lazy throwing back to the pitcher? Like in the first inning, you can tell, is this guy lazy or is he engaged in the game? Is he catching the ball and kind of surveying the field when there's a guy on base, or is he catching it, getting on a knee and lobbing it back? If he's a guy that's catching it, lobbing it back, then hey, maybe that's a guy we go delayed steals on.
Another thing to look for, a lot of guys think it's all about the catcher on delayed steal. It's really mainly on the middle infielders.
I was going to go there
are
next.
the middle infielders between pitches looking around and walking back and talking to the left fielder and doing some cool dance or whatever they are because their mom's got their camera on them so they can put it on TikTok later, being concerned about the wrong things, right? Boom, you just go ahead, secondary, delayed steal, nobody's at second base, you got it all day. So here we are, just these few things we're talking about. So players, this summer, when a game is starting and the starting pitchers, you can look at how many things you can find out. All right, you should be looking at within the first 2 to 3 hitters of the game. Are the middle infielders engaging between pitches? Is the catcher dropping to a knee with a runner on base and lobbing it back? Right? These types of things, because you know what? More times than not, it's going to be no. But the times that it is, boom. That's when you expose them is what it is. And that's what it's like to be on offense and to attack and to try to win something is when somebody shows one sign of weakness or vulnerability, boom, that's what you attack. But you have to look for it to find it.
Yeah. And it's not a coincidence. You can go in a dugout and tell the teams that are engaged like that, and it's a noticeable difference. Like, those are usually very consistent teams, programs, whatever it is, because they're getting these cheat codes is kind of what you could maybe call it.
Yeah,
I know we talk a lot about it in lessons with
Yeah.
cheat codes. Like, hey, there's cheat codes in baseball also. Like, we're always talking, like, you need to find that team's weakness and take it instantly. I talk about it. You're an older guy taking a little kid's bag of candy from them. Like, be a bully on the field. Find out when they're sleeping, find out their weakness, and take advantage of it. That third baseman's walking around in between pitches, staring in the outfield, putting his hand up or whatever. Go steal third base when he's turned around not looking. And if you happen to get thrown out and the coach is like, "What are you doing?" and you walk into the coach and say, "Coach, I watched him for 4 pitches, not pay any attention. I thought I could steal third base on him." Like, coach is not going to get mad unless there's maybe like no outs and your best hitter is up to bat and you're on second base already. But like, coach is not going to get mad because at least you're thinking, at least you're engaged. And later on down the road, that might help you win a baseball game.
And so it's funny. It's about having games within the game. And I know when I played, it's funny you give that example. When I was in high school, we used to call it taking Chrissy, right? I have no idea. One of our teammates called it Chrissy. I have no idea why. But a Chrissy was when, the play was over and whatever infielder, right, if you're on first base and the shortstop and the second baseman walked away and weren't paying attention and the pitcher wasn't paying attention, the catcher, we just started walking. If we got 2 steps past the cut and nobody said anything, we sprinted, we were safe every time. And we used to have a count, like, so they have stolen bases. We used to have Chrissy counts, right? Like, that's how much we looked for it. Like, everybody in the dugout would look for it while it was going on. And we stole like 96 bases that year or something insane in like a high school season. Now, we had some guys that could run, but we also looked for those opportunities. So it's like the best teams that I've ever been on, the best teams that I've ever coached, all had like mantras like that and like little culture things that they looked for. And it was always something fun, but it was something fun like what we did with like, hey, like, how can you steal Chrissy? Like, because it helped us steal a bag. So it was fun, but because it helped us win more is what it was. So it made it even more fun is what it was.
No, I love the analogy of a game within a game because I feel like the kids today most of them don't play the game within the game. They just look at the big game. And when I talk about game within the game, like, I feel like picking off guys is a lost art. And like, I know when I pitched, it was almost like a game of cat and mouse. Like, I wanted to pick off that guy at first base as bad as I wanted to strike out.
You were already pissed off that he got on first.
Exactly.
You wanted to get him off.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Like, I was doing fake balk moves. I was trying to do anything I could to get that guy out at first base. And honestly, like, picking a guy off on first base can be a huge momentum builder as well. Huge momentum builder.
Massive.
Probably even bigger than a strikeout.
It's the biggest deflating thing on offense.
It is.
It's hard enough to get somebody on one of the bags.
Yep.
Then all of a sudden, when it just we take ourselves off of it, right? That's where most games are lost, are on the base pass. Either guys getting picked off and the defense taking it from them, or not knowing what they're doing, which we can go into days of that another time, right?
Yeah.
We'll put that on the list for something in the future. I'm gonna bring us to another branch, And I'm gonna kind of lob this for you to fill in the gaps for everybody. Start telling us about engagement on the 13th inch of the plate.